Adam Curtis. This guy, in my opinion, is one of the most stylish, thought-provoking, and engaging documentarists working today. Yeah, this is a documentary review. So what? Nobody else seems to do them, and considering the subject and importance of this particular piece, I almost consider it my duty to use my, small podium to invite others to view this film. Anyway, Adam Curtis is exactly the kind of filmmaker we need right now. He doesn't shy away from controversial issues, isn't afraid to poke the bear, and delivers frank, introspective theses that you don't need to be a history major to understand. Though it does help. Bitter Lake is primarily a return to issues involving the Middle East, and is sort of a sequel to his other Middle Eastern work from 10 years ago, The Power of Nightmares, which compared the rise of Islamism in the Middle East to the conservative revolution in the Western world. And by the way, you should also totally see that piece. It's really, really good, and it's very informative. Just like The Power of Nightmares, Bitter Lake again involves both the Middle East and Western world in several key issues that are woefully misrepresented, misunderstood, or just not spoken about at all in modern media, and that most, if not all the issues affecting the area since the end of the First World War can be traced back to a single disastrous decision, a fateful agreement between the Roosevelt administration of the 30s and the new Kingdom of Saudi Arabia to buy their oil in return for technology and wealth. An agreement signed at Bitter Lake. But with that came one caveat from Saudi Arabia's founder Abdulaziz ibn Saud, that America would not intervene with the internal politics of the country, specifically not to interfere with the king's own developed ideology of Wahhabism. Curtis draws from here that this decision comes a seminal catastrophe of the Middle East. Once the Wahhabists became a threat to Abdulaziz, he created distractions for them by sending the Wahhabist radicals off around the Middle East to plant the seeds of their fundamentalism, which has led to the rise of the Mujahideen, the Taliban, the Al-Qaeda, and most recently, Islamic State. Also at play is the tragedy of Afghanistan, as the Americans and Russians traded jobs in trying to build the developing country in the view of their own idealism, both blinded to the real threats that laid within, and the horrible truth of the Wahhabist-inspired Taliban taking over the country thanks to the efforts made by the British and Americans to strengthen the country. All of these stem from a single fundamental flaw with the British and Americans, Mr. Curtis argues. They are both blinded to the real dangers of the world at large, foreign and domestic, due to their own crippling insistence of a good and evil narrative. That it is only us or them, red and blue, left and right. That the Saudis and Mujahideen opposing the communists in the Cold War meant they were good. That because the dispossessed ruthless warlords of Afghanistan fought the Taliban meant they were also good. And that, say, because some everyday Afghanis resented the British and Americans for reinstating those warlords, meant that they were Taliban, and thus bad. Bitter Lake isn't the perfect examination of this period. There is a pretty big glaring flaw in that Mr. Curtis doesn't take any time at all to actually explain what Wahhabism is, instead consistently referring to it as just a backwards conservative movement, as well as some inserted scenes seemingly lacking some key context. But everything else about this documentary defines the must-see political and societal polemic in today's society. It's also a very engaging documentary, which makes up for the subject matter and Adam's style itself not being very exciting. Adam Curtis's editing works wonders to make up, creating an insistently watchable piece by splitting up the informational bodies with seemingly benign but essential breathing spaces, all meant to demonstrate the lack of difference between the West and the Orient, among other things. It'll always make you await the next moment while still engaging you in the present, and with a soundtrack mix that gives the film a real cinematic flair that always grabs your attention and places it front and center. There is a potential trigger warning I will state with this film, that there are a few uneasy and graphic depictions of murder, so keep that in mind if you are affected by those at all. Bitter Lake is currently available for viewing on demand at various platforms, and I definitely recommend that you see it. See you all next time.